Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. Today, I'm going to talk about when do I need to ground myself, or when do you need to ground yourself? This is another question that I've gotten from my higher purpose learning. And no, actually, this was from one of my students in my Keys to the Spirit World, my intuition and psychic develop. My intuition and psychic ability development class. We do cover this in there, but as we talked about it more, I thought it'd be good to just do an actual blog post and or radio show, hence this, on the subject. So for those of you who do not know what grounding is, I'm going to cover that just a little bit, and I'm just going to cover it briefly because I think that there's some other stuff on there that you can read about it, that because I want to get into some more advanced stuff on this topic here. Grounding is when your spiritual body and your physical body are not merged together or balanced very well. So in other words, when you learn to develop psychically and or you become very aware of your spiritual body, what happens is a lot of times people get very excited when they go on a new spiritual journey or they're learning psychic development. And they really spend a lot of time, and they want to spend a lot of time in their spiritual body and become very in tune with that part of themselves. And this creates an imbalance because we live in the physical realm. So in order to basically feel good all the way around, you're always having to pay attention to your spiritual body, your physical body, keeping them in balance. It can be very overwhelming. And then people find themselves wondering, like, well, wait, so how am I even going to know? And, this is becoming like a lot of information. And so imagine it like this. When you're developing on a spiritual level or you're very in tune with your spiritual body, your two bodies will begin to separate a little bit. And so your spiritual body will hang out kind of around and above and more floatier around your physical body. And so you start to lose touch with the physical aspect of yourself a little bit, and then your physical body starts to notice because you start pulling out a little bit. And because we live in the physical realm, becomes very noticeable. You start feeling shaky, you could feel lightheaded, you could feel vertigo-ish, you can feel drained, you can feel spacey, out of body, kind of like you're watching a movie and you're not really in your body completely. You can feel kind of like a lot of people who have ADHD and that type of thing, they need to be more grounded in the physical realm, because I have talked about this before, but a lot of people who've been diagnosed with that actually have very high abilities on a psychic level, and so they're not understanding how to utilize them properly and balance them with the physical realm, and so they can be very flighty in their thoughts, and they can be very distracted really easy if you're not grounded. So dizzy, lightheaded, lethargic, tired, drained, low blood sugar feeling, out of body feeling, very kind of spacey. Any of these things are what happen when you're too much in your spiritual body and you're not hanging out in your physical aspect of who you are very much. So you have to pull that spiritual body back down, because you want them working together. And the opposite can happen if you're very grounded, to where you have a hard time connecting into your spiritual body. And so if you're way too grounded, then you might put up some blocks when it comes to psychic development. So there is a key to balancing the two bodies and being able to maneuver between the two and feel both of them and work with them in harmony. And that's when you feel optimal. That's when you feel at your best. Now, that being said, don't panic. On any regard, especially if you've been feeling this way for a while, it doesn't matter. There's some very good tricks of what you can do to ground yourself, and I have some of my favorites that we're going to talk about. But also, I have questions like, I've had people ask me, is there a way to prevent this from happening so I don't have to ground myself? Unfortunately, no. Whether you do this professionally like I do, or whether you do it every once in a while, or whether you even don't even know if you have psychic abilities or psychic senses, many times you're going to find yourself out of balance at some point in time. So it's not necessarily, there are keys to prevention. There are things that you can do to be more aware. But what this show is going to be about is after you already find that you need grounded, and when do you find that you need grounded, like keys to tell you. So, and then we're going to just talk about how to just get back into body, because it can happen daily, it can happen weekly, it can happen often. If I'm not careful and I don't watch what I'm doing, and I'm not being very organized in my grounding routine, then I can feel spacey most of the time. I can feel out of body like a lot, constantly. So I have to set a routine for myself. So we already know, when do you need to ground yourself? Well, if you're going to be, first of all, if you feel any of those things, if you're feeling spacey, out of body, or whatever, it doesn't matter what happened, you need to ground yourself now. If you if you're on a spiritual journey and you're learning to tap into your spiritual body, you need to ground yourself daily. If you are doing any type of spiritual work, if you are a reader, if you are a healer, any of those things, you need to ground yourself daily. It's a necessity, like you eat, like you sleep, and like you take your vitamins. It's must be done daily. If you get into psychic stuff as a healer or a reader, and you have an event that day, you're going to have to do it most likely before and after the event. You're going to need to do it a couple of times a day. If you are just maybe going to a place where there's a lot of people and you're learning to develop psychically, and say you're just going to Walmart or a concert, you might want to do it twice that day as well. One time before you go, one time after, and that sort of thing. So when do you need to ground yourself? When you're feeling out of balance, when you're not feeling present, when you're feeling shaky, when you're not feeling well, you're drained, etc. That's when you need to ground yourself. But I would prefer you make more of a routine of it, especially if you're on a spiritual journey, which I assume most of you listening to me are. So if you are, I would suggest you do it daily. I absolutely have to do it daily, and if I do not do it daily, sometimes I do it more than once daily. And if I don't, the thing with me, because my senses are very high, and I do a lot of spiritual work, and I work a lot with energy, what will happen if you are very advanced and highly developed, and you're a reader or a healer, or you may even be an acupuncturist or something like that, and you're around a lot of people. If you do not make time to ground yourself, you're going to feel all those weird things first, and then you're going to develop some type of maybe cold or flu. You can only ignore it for so long before it develops into a longer term, like immediate, I'm going to shut you down for like a week so that you chill and take care of yourself type of thing that will happen. So you have to be very conscious of just doing these little things daily or more than once a day so that you can stay healthy and feel the best that you can feel. So there are some things that I'm going to go through. We're going to talk about different types of grounding techniques. So there's always meditation. If you don't know what kind of meditation works for grounding, any kind really works. You don't have to have a specific type of meditation. Meditation will ground yourself. Now, I actually have made a specific grounding meditation that I use for people, or like I have done a MP3 download of that for the students in my class, but you can absolutely find one on the internet, or if you have a favorite meditation to do, then go ahead and do that. The other thing is scents. Scents are incredibly grounding. So one of my favorite things, everybody's heard about incense and sage. Those are some of the most common ways to ground yourself. I don't love the smell of sage, and the smoke can be really overbearing for me. So I tend to use sandalwood because it'll make me cough. I tend to use sandalwood because that's a very popular, effective grounding incense. Now, you can use all different kinds of incense, but one of my favorite ways to ground myself through scents is by scented shower gels. And you can also do essential oils, and those are easy to throw in your purse if you're out doing an event or you're somewhere and you just put some of it on your wrist or some of it even right below your nose. And the key with essential oils is you want to get some very musky oils, essential oils, like some that are really flowery scents sometimes don't have the intensity with the grounding, and some essential oils, like, I'm trying to think, there's a few of them that are just terrible smelling. I think jasmine even might be one of them, and I know that's pretty grounding. But go through the essential oils, and sandalwood is actually pretty good as far as essential oils, but smell some of the ones that have grounding properties and pick one that you would actually use, but be careful because those are overbearing. So you can put them on your wrist and you can smell it, and that will help ground you, or you can put it right below your nose. But shower gels are awesome. And funny enough, they tend to be more men's shower gels because those are the musky scents. And so those work really, really well. That's a good thing because another very quick grounding tool is water. And so obviously scented shower gel works with water. And what I like about water is you can use these in several ways, but one of my absolute favorite 911 grounding techniques is with water. So drinking water is really important, but grounding yourself with water, swimming in water, showering in water, you could sit in a hot tub, go for a swim, whatever, because water is an energy cleanser and it's one of the earth's elements, and that's really important when grounding. So when grounding yourself, keep in mind the whole point is you're bringing your spiritual body back into your physical body, but more often than not you're using something from the earth's elements. And that's why like for instance, sandalwood is a really good grounding scent because it's actually wood. And water, it's another one of the earth's elements. And so, but it's a very cleansing, even if I go into a rock shop or something. So here's some really good grounding techniques. If you go in for a walk into a rock shop and I can feel because I'm clairtangent, so I can feel all the energy off my hands. All you have to do to ground yourself if you do something like that is you go into the bathroom and you run cold water over your hands. My favorite thing to do with water, if I'm, like I said, if I'm in that 911 emergency type thing, is to either run your hands on your cold water in a restroom, or if you have something very cold, a drink, a can of soda, a bottle of water, anything that's really cold, you pull up the hair on the back of your neck and you stick it right on the back of your neck. It will ground you immediately. It is the coolest trick I've ever learned. Why that happens is because it tends to, when you're feeling out of body, certain chakras open, which allows your spiritual body to kind of flow out a little bit, and that is your fifth chakra. And when it is you put ice or something cold on the back of your neck, it will close it down immediately, almost like if you closed up a flower really quickly, like by putting it in the cold and they clam up. That's what happens, and you come shooting right back in. It's amazing and it's wonderful, and you start to feel present right away. And if you don't have anything like a cold item, you can go into the bathroom, run very cold water under your hands, and even leave a tiny bit on your hand, and then place your hand on the back of your neck. It's fantastic because you can literally do this almost anywhere, and it helps so fast. So if you're at a social activity, you're feeling really weird, you go do it, you come back, you're good to go. And so I love it. It's one of my favorites. Exercise is really, really important when it comes to keeping your physical body in balance and working in harmony with your spiritual body. Again, because our our physical body is our primary vessel while we're here. And so it merges the two bodies together when you're utilizing it. So something that's very impactful is really good as far as exercise, but any exercise is good. It works so well for me. That's one of the preventative things that I do when we were talking about being preventative. This is something that I do at least 3 times a week. Whether I have events or I do not have events, I make sure that I schedule them in with a trainer, or we like to play volleyball, so we'll do that on a set day, etc. Because that's more preventative for me. I know that I must do that at least 3 times a week in order to really keep feeling good. So I would suggest doing that regardless of anything else you're doing, and then add in the quicker ones if you need to, at different times during the day. Nature, going outside, walking around, and getting away from electronic devices are really, really important when grounding. So the electronic devices actually give off a certain type of energy. When you're indoors too much, you really sponge up the wrong kind of energy. And so you need this earth energy to stay grounded. So you need to come in contact with nature somehow. So you want to actually, so if you can go biking or hiking or walk down to the beach or skiing or camping or whatever, you naturally, when you're out in earth and you're kind of doing activities, you naturally draw upon Mother Earth energy. And I'm not talking about going from your car to the mall to get out of the house, although that can be nice to get out of the house and nice, mentally to just unwind. That's not what I mean by being in nature. I mean actually doing an activity in nature to kind of connect you with nature, the smells, the textures, the feel. And you want to touch nature as much as you can with your hands or your feet. If you can, go barefoot, that type of thing. So that's also really, really important. Yoga is specifically designed to align your spiritual and physical bodies. So the cool thing about yoga is there's lots of different types of yoga for different types of people, but here's really a cool thing. You can do it if you leave the house, or you can do it in your living room, because there are so many yoga DVDs, but right now the fad is kind of yoga YouTube videos. So you can really just find a really good person on YouTube. And my one of my family members found someone they really like on YouTube. Now I can't remember what her name is, but yeah, any yoga stuff is specifically designed to align your bodies. Chocolate. Now, chocolate, it has very grounding properties in it, and dark chocolate is really the best, but, eating chocolate can be grounding. But that brings me to another one. Eating in general can be very grounding. So this is why some people actually overeat, is because, and people who have anxieties, they are, if you have anxiety or you're feeling anxious, just basically anxiety, people who can even have panic attacks this way, that's usually when you're out of body and when you're not grounded as well. You can feel the energy, and you can feel not being completely in your body, and so your mind start translating that into 100 different million things. And so eating really does ground you, because usually, and by eating, it's usually not, what I mean by eating is not like majorly processed foods, but more natural types items, because that's coming from the earth. You've got, if you're eating salads or even a burger or tacos, usually those items that are in there have come from the earth somehow, vegetables or even meat or any of that. It grounds you. Eating grounds you fairly quickly, and people notice that a lot. It actually grounds me pretty fast. So that's another grounding technique. And so I did miss that at the beginning, that feeling anxious and anxiety would also be a sign of when that you need grounded. And sex. Sex is something that grounds you into your physical body and uses your physical senses, and that grounds you very quickly. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, but you're grounding yourself with another person's energy. Other people can be very grounding. Male energies can be very grounding to female energies and vice versa, because they tend to balance their energies. So being around another person can be very grounding, as long as they're not draining energy from you, like a positive person, a positive force in your life. The other very popular thing that people like to move towards is grounding stones. Grounding stones are really can be really effective, and when it comes to grounding, there are so many different grounding stones. It will just blow your mind. So I'm going to tell you some of my favorites that I use for grounding stones, and they're easier to find, which is nice, because sometimes you go into a rock shop and you say, I'm looking for this, and people have no idea what you're looking for, and I don't carry that. So I'm going to go through them, then I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do with the stones if you have grounding stones. Iron pyrite is a very popular grounding stone, and it's considered a solar stone. I like the ones from Peru. Those are my favorites. But iron pyrite, it's actually fool's gold, if you guys don't know what that is. That's a very good grounding stone. They make some very cool stuff out of that. Tourmaline. Tourmaline is also a psychic protection stone, but it's black, and it's a healing stone. It's kind of black and it can look chunky, but it's a very cool looking stone. They make some very cool jewelry out of tourmaline, black tourmaline. Hematite. Most people do know what hematite is. There's a lot of things that are made from hematite, such as they have rocks, they have magnets type things with hematite. They make bracelets and rings, and hematite rings and bracelets are really, really common. You can find those at almost any rock shop, and the hematite rings are like $1 or something. But hematite breaks really easy, so if you buy a hematite ring, it'll probably last you a couple weeks before it breaks. So you might want to grab a couple, especially because they're usually $1. Quartz. I love quartz. Smoky quartz is a very high vibration stone, but I like any type of quartz. Quartz is very, very grounding. You can have rose quartz, smoky quartz, clear quartz, any type of quartz. It's really, really grounding. Obsidian is another one of my favorites. That's volcanic glass. Obsidian is really, really grounding. It's very strong. It's a powerful, powerful stone, protection stone. And that's very black and shiny. You can find that at most places. A lot of people like to use amethyst. Amethyst is very good stone to have around, and I've had people ask me about this, but I wouldn't place amethyst by your bed. I would place it more by something that where you'd have more activity, home office or your regular office, or like living room area, something like that, because of the vibration of the stone, it can give you some weird dreams and it doesn't have like the calming vibration, but it will have some protection properties. Merkabahs. Oh my gosh. Again, I know you guys have heard me talk about it, but they're my favorites. Also, they can be made of different types of stones, but it's the shape that really is the important thing, is the shape of the Merkabah. So it doesn't matter if you get jade or quartz or whatever, just get one you're drawn to. And the other thing is, I like to use 2 of them. People have asked me, like, how many do you use? I use 2. I like to place them by my bed. They really, really help me sleep. So that's a nice grounding stone too. The other thing about stones is, what do you do with them? Let's say you want to use grounding stones. Now what? You can use those as far as, like, you can make jewelry out of them. You can buy jewelry out of them, necklaces, They do really cool spiritual bracelets now, like the beaded bracelets that everybody wears. They do rings out of stuff, lots of pendants on necklaces. You can wear them around. I have different ones. I try not to use the same ones all the time. And if you do wear them as jewelry, every once in a while you want to run them under water, because these grounding stones will collect energy, and when you run them underwater, it clears the energy away from the stones. If you don't have any of those things and you just happen to be at a rock shop and you picked them up, you can ground yourself by holding on to the stones. You can even put them in your pocket or your purse or by your bed. You can use grounding stones in any of those ways. The other thing is, if you go into a rock shop, there may be things that I never mentioned. But if you find that you're very drawn to a certain stone or a gemstone or a rock or something, most likely you're needing that for some type of grounding. So it doesn't matter what the properties are. It's vibrating with you on a nice level if you're drawn to it. So I suggest, and we always in our family, we will walk around a rock shop and look for things we're looking for. But if we're drawn to something in particular, we always buy it, because we know that for whatever reason we are needing that for some type of balance. So that's really, really important. And so hopefully that this was self-explanatory. I'm going to run through this a little bit again. When you're developing psychically, when you're doing it for a living, and actually when you're feeling out of body, when you're on a spiritual journey, you'll notice some physical things of when you need to be grounded. You're going to feel lightheaded, shaky. You're going to feel out of body. You're going to feel just not right. You're going to feel detached. Detached is another good word. These types of things are is when you're going to need to be grounded. But you want to do it every day. You just want to do it every day. You want to make sure it becomes a part of your routine. So how I do grounding stuff is I'm very conscious of when I do that. I burn incense at least once a week at the least. I try to do it maybe a couple times a week, especially if I know like I had a lot of heavy work that day. I'm feeling if I'm doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of readings, whatever, I will make sure that I'm burning incense that day. I always have a musky type shower gel, always. And I burn incense many times when I'm taking a shower because I like the combination, and the combination tends to ground me very quickly. If I'm doing anything out, I will use that water trick on the back of my neck. The other thing that I do for grounding is I try to make sure that I go down to the beach, I'm outside, I'm disconnecting from my electronics, and I'm out in nature at least, once or twice a week or something. I also schedule my own exercise. I schedule them 3 times a week. I make sure a conscious effort to do that because it's really important for me specifically because of my schedule. And then I do have different rocks placed around. And so that's what I do to stay grounded. That's how I kind of put it into my routine. It becomes mindless because I don't think about it, because I do think about it when I shower and I smell the gel. I know I can feel myself grounding. It feels really good. I burn the incense on purpose, I just make it part of my routine. I just make it part of my daily activities. And even so, sometimes I may have to ramp up the grounding. I may have to take it to the whole next level when I am doing an event or something majors that day, and I may burn incense a couple of times that day. I may specifically go, nope, I have to stop everything I'm doing. I need to take a walk down to the beach. I may, decide that I need to head to do the stuff on the back of my neck. But sometimes I need to ramp them up. But I try to make sure that I do most of those daily anyways. It's just part of my life to stay balanced and feeling as best I can do or feel. Then I will add in additional grounding techniques. So my suggestion is, do it daily. You need to do it daily. It needs to be a part of your routine. So when do you need to ground yourself? Every day. Every day. Okay? So hopefully that was helpful. Again, you can check out my keys-to-the-spirit-world.com. You can find out more information on my classes and my, there'll be some blogs or blog posts there, more podcasts. And if you would like to, if you have any more questions on grounding that I didn't answer, you can certainly email me at jennifer@keys-to-the-spirit-world.com, and or if you want to be added to my mailing list. So until next time, hopefully that was helpful. Go run around and put your feet in the sand or do some exercise. I bet you love that. All right. Until next time, aloha.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Black Friday is coming, and for the adults in your life who love the coolest toys, well, there's something for them this year too. Bartesian is the premier craft cocktail maker that automatically makes more than 60 seasonal and classic cocktails, each in under 30 seconds at the push of a button. And right now, Bartesian is having a huge site-wide sale. You can get $100 off any cocktail maker or cocktail maker bundle when you spend $400 or more. So, if the cocktail lover in your life has been good this year, or the right kind of bad, get them Bartesian. At the push of a button, make bar-quality cosmopolitans, martinis, Manhattans, and more. All in just 30 seconds. All for $100 off. Amazing toys aren't just for kids. Get $100 off a cocktail maker when you spend $400 through Cyber Monday. Visit bartesian.com/cocktail. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail.